Hi everyone, my name is Deborah Abela and I'm an author, and today I thought I would read you a tiny bit from this book here called Final Storm. This is my latest book, and it's actually the third book in a trilogy that was never meant to be a trilogy. In the first book called Grimsdon, I basically got really angry that governments around the world weren't dealing with the issue of climate change. So I flooded an entire city, added sea monsters, flying machines, and girls who were good with swords. After that, I got harassed by lots of angry children to find out what happened next. And after being harassed for quite a while, I thought, yeah, okay, I would like to know what happens next. So the kids in the flooded city managed to escape to a new place called New City, and they set up a new life there, but the weather's gone really wild and unpredictable, and there is also a secret at the edge of the forest. Now, I thought this would make the angry kids happy with me. It didn't. They wrote back again and said, yep, thanks lady for writing New City. Now what's going to happen in the next book? Then I thought, do you know what? When I first started thinking about Grimsdon, the world actually wasn't really good at all dealing with the issue of climate change, but I think we're getting better. I think we're getting better at recognizing what we need to do to take care of this gorgeous planet much better. So I wrote Final Storm. So I'm going to read you just the first little bit of Final Storm. And in the beginning of Final Storm and New City, Griffin, one of my main characters, my meek and mild main character, he writes a little diary entry to kind of catch people up on what's happened before. So this is Griffin's diary entry. Dear Diary, it's been 4 years since the floods, 4 years since Grimsdon was ruined, since everything and almost everyone we knew was lost, including our parents. I remember the noise the most, the creaking buildings, the smashing windows, and crunching metal as cars and trucks were rolled down streets like marbles. The waves were like a hungry giant stampeding through the city, devouring everything in its wake. Luckily, most people were rescued, but we were left behind. We made a home in a building called the Palace, found the twins, Bee and Raffy, and soon after that, Fly. When Xavier broke in, Isabella almost threw him out the window until he told us about his flying machine called an erratic. We weren't sure if we could trust him at first, but when he took Isabella flying, we knew we could use the machine to try and escape. So we let him stay. He has a big mouth and can be annoying, but when he's not showing off, he's almost bearable. For 3 years we survived without electricity, computers, phones and our families, facing sea creatures and sneaker waves and an evil harbour lord called Sneddon. It was only when we met Jeremiah and he told us that he and Isabella's father had warned the government about the floods that we learned Grimsdon could have been saved. Adults knew about the warnings and most of them did nothing. With the city becoming too dangerous, Xavier used his aerotrope to get help and we flew to New City, where we live now. It's modern and new, with buildings strong enough to withstand the wild and unpredictable weather. It was ruled by Major General Grimes and his garrison, who rescued the city from chaos after the floods. Turns out he wasn't so trustworthy. When we heard rumours about a secret at the edge of the forest, he insisted they weren't true and ordered us to stay away. But Isabella refused to obey and discovered he was lying. I was angry about the danger she'd put herself in, but when she gets an idea in her head, not even a tornado can lift it. She was right, as usual, and the Major General finally got what was coming to him. That was a year ago. The garrison has been expelled and replaced by a new government. Jeremiah is officially our guardian. We have a new home and we're back in school. The planet is still suffering from dangerous weather, but governments are listening now and trying to repair the damage, even though some parts of the world have been lost forever. I feel safe with Jeremiah and the others, but there are times I worry that just like Grimsdon, everything will be taken away again. That's what scares me the most. I wish I could be as brave as Isabella and as strong and confident as Xavier, but one thing I do know, I am going to do everything I can to keep all of them safe. That's a promise. Griffin. Chapter 1. A Broken Rule. Isabella ran. She tore across the frozen lake, squinting against the falling snow that stung her cheeks and clogged the air like confetti, making it almost impossible to see. The heavy smack of footsteps behind her came closer. Ignoring the pain in her legs, she ran faster. She had no choice. She had to get away. Her eyes watered and her ears filled with the pounding of her heart and the rushing wind, when a piercing smack split the air. She came to a sliding halt, arms waving, just managing to stay upright. Between her boots, she watched a long, snaking crack carve through the ice, creating a maze of deadly tree-like splinters. Any movement, and she'd be hurled into the icy black waters. Rasping, strangled breath sounded behind her. Looking over her shoulder, she saw a tall, cloaked figure step out of the snow, his face hidden beneath a dark hood. Shafts of black, tangled hair caught in the wind, writhing like snakes. Each step he took sparked another wave of cracks. Isabella! Who are you? She tried to keep her voice from shaking. The man laughed. It sounded more like a wheezy cough. His gnarled, bony hand reached out from beneath the folds of his cloak. Isabella! She couldn't move, she barely breathed. The fractures in the ice grew. She had seconds to get away. But it was too late. In one last sickening crack, the ice shattered like broken glass, and she plunged into the freezing water. Isabella woke, gasping for air. Everything's okay. Griffin was by her side. You were having a nightmare. Isabella tried to pull herself from the haze of sleep. She wasn't being chased. There was no frozen lake. She was safe at home with Griffin and the others. Letting out a weary sigh, she dragged herself up, pulling her knees to her chest. Sorry I woke you. Again. It's okay. And he meant it. I was awake anyway. Isabella eyed him through a tumble of auburn curls. You're a terrible liar. He offered her a superior look. I'll take that as a compliment. Isabella hugged her knees tighter. I was being chased. By what? A man, I think. She gave her friend a sideways glance. Did I say anything? Griffin adjusted his glasses, wondering if he should tell the truth. You were calling for your mum. There it was, the look he'd been dreading. Oh. This had been happening a lot lately, the nightmares where Isabella was being chased and calling for her mum. Can I tell you a secret? She asked. Griffin leaned forward. Of course, anything. Ever since we found out my dad died, I've wondered if Mum's still alive and if she might try to find me. It's silly, isn't it, after all this time? Isabella's mum left when she was a kid. No note, no goodbye, nothing. She hadn't seen her since. All she had was one crumpled photo. Everything about her was blurry, like looking through a window in a storm. I don't think it's silly, Griffin said quietly, careful not to wake the others. I wonder the same thing about my parents. Griffin's mum and dad were on a boat on the Grimsdon River when the flood hit. He knew the chances of surviving were slim, impossible even, but that didn't stop him hoping. Do you think of them often? Griffin bit his lip and admitted, every day. Isabella's voice caught. Me too. Can I tell you my secret? Isabella nodded. I talk to my parents every morning when I wake up, just to say hello. Isabella's eyes widened. I do the same with Dad. Do you think they can hear us? Mum can hear me mumble from the opposite side of the house, so I'm guessing she can. Griffin straightened, shaking off Isabellas Nightmare. Ready for our first day back? I think so. Remember when we started school? Our dads walked us there. You were so excited until you realised they couldn't stay. Your tantrum was spectacular. My dad was smarter than anyone. He deserved to be there. Griffin didn't even try to hide his smile. It was the very first of many rules you didn't like. I like rules. Isabella tugged at the blankets in a huff. Really? Like the garrison's rule to stay away from the forest? I had to see what was there. Or the rule not to leave headquarters alone? I can handle myself. What about Snedden's rule to steal for him? Isabella jolted at the name. Rules deserve to be broken when they don't make any sense. Even if it gets us into trouble? Especially then. Isabella smiled for the first time that morning, which made Griffin's heart skip a little. I'll remember that when you break another one. He got to his feet. Are you feeling okay? Isabella perked up. Much better. Thanks, Griffin. Anytime. I'll wake the others. He headed for the door and snuck one last look before he left. Isabella's face had clouded over and she slumped forward. Griffin was annoyed that he'd mentioned Snedden. He thought back to the cruel, wild-haired man who lived on a ship in the Grimsdon harbour, whose thugs forced them to steal for him, who tied Isabella in ropes and made her walk the plank so she almost drowned. They rarely said his name. It was an unspoken rule, one that Griffin had just broken. So that is chapter 1 of Final Storm, the third book in the Grimsdon trilogy. I hope you really, really enjoyed that. And if you would like to know more about the series or me or my books or even write to me, you can go to my website, which is deborahabela.com. Okay, thanks everyone. Have a lovely day.